Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a story that will leave you on the edge of your seat. A tale of betrayal, love, and the ultimate sacrifice. Meet Ethan Cole, a man who gave up everything for the woman he loved, only to find out that love was nothing but a web of lies. What happens when a man takes the fall for a crime he didn't commit and years later discovers the truth? Well, let me tell you, it's shocking, it's emotional, and it's going to leave you speechless. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to stay updated on all the latest stories, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. Now, we want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country, and let's get the conversation going. Ethan Cole never doubted his love for Olivia. From the moment they met, she had been his entire world. His reason for waking up, for pushing through hard days, for dreaming of something greater than himself. She was beautiful, not just in the way she looked, but in the way she carried herself, bold, ambitious, untamed. She had this fire in her that he had always admired, an ability to make things happen. But love, real love, wasn't about admiration. It was about protection. And when the time came, Ethan would prove just how far he was willing to go for her. It was supposed to be a quiet night. Ethan had been out with friends, a rare boy's pride night Olivia had practically shoved him into. "You never go out anymore," she had teased, pushing him toward the door with a kiss. "Go, have fun." He didn't argue. Why would he? Life was good. They were talking about starting a family. He was working towards a promotion. Everything was falling into place. Until his phone rang. When he saw Olivia's name, a smile tugged at his lips until he answered. Her voice was shaky, uneven. "Ethan, I need you. Please, now." His heart pounded. "Where are you?" She gave him an address. An alley behind a high-end restaurant. He didn't ask questions. He just ran. When he got there, he found her standing in the cold, arms wrapped around herself. And just behind her, a body. A man, blood pooling beneath his head, motionless. Ethan felt his stomach drop. "Olivia, what did you do?" "I didn't mean to," she sobbed. He wouldn't leave me alone, Ethan. He followed me. He grabbed me. I had to fight back." Ethan's mind raced. He took a closer look. The man was Richard Dawson, a wealthy entrepreneur, Olivia's former boss. She had complained about him before. His comments, his lingering stares, his hands brushing against her just a little too often. She had quit months ago to get away from him. Now he was dead at her feet. Ethan swallowed hard. "Olivia, we need to call the police." No, he clutched his arm. "Ethan, they won't believe me. They'll say it was premeditated, that I lured him here. He has money, power, connections." Ethan hesitated. He wanted to believe the truth would set her free, but she wasn't wrong. Dawson had influence. If Olivia got arrested, there was no telling how things would turn out. She was shaking, terrified. And in that moment, Ethan knew what he had to do. He would protect her at all costs. Ethan wiped the tears from her face. "Go home," he said. "Now." She blinked at him. "What?" "You were never here," he said, his voice firm. "I'll take care of it." She stared at him, stunned. "Ethan, no, I can't let you." "You can, and you will." His grip on her arms tightened. "Listen to me, Olivia. If we do this right, you'll be safe. You'll have a life, a future." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "But you won't," Ethan smiled sadly. "You're my future. That's all that matters." And with that, he kissed her. Then he picked up the murder weapon, a heavy metal pipe lying nearby. "Go," he whispered, "now." She hesitated one last time before nodding and running into the night. By the time the police arrived, Ethan was sitting beside the body, weapon in hand, ready to confess. The trial was a nightmare. The prosecution painted him as a cold-blooded killer who had attacked Dawson out of jealousy. They said Olivia had left him for Dawson, that Ethan had snapped in a fit of rage. He wanted to tell the truth, but Olivia's tear-streaked face in the courtroom reminded him why he couldn't. If he told the truth, she'd be arrested. She'd lose everything. So he stuck to the story. And the jury? They found him guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 years. He turned to Olivia as the verdict was read. She was sobbing, clutching her stomach like she was about to be sick. She mouthed two words to him, "I'm sorry." Ethan gave her a small smile. He didn't regret it. She was safe. That was all that mattered. Prison was hell. Every day was a battle, not just against the system, but against himself. The regret, the loneliness, the rage. But he held on to one thing, Olivia. She wrote letters at first, visited as often as she could. She promised she'd wait, that they'd rebuild their life when he got out. That was the only thing keeping him sane. Then, after 2 years, the letters stopped. The visits became rare, then non-existent. She stopped answering his calls. By the time he was eligible for parole after 6 years, he hadn't heard from her in over 4 years. Still, when he walked out of those prison gates, he told himself it was okay. Maybe she had just needed space. Maybe she had moved away. Maybe she was waiting for him to come find her. He was wrong, because when Ethan finally did find her, he realized the truth was far worse than anything he had imagined. The world outside prison felt unfamiliar. Ethan Cole had spent 6 years behind bars, and though it wasn't a lifetime, it was long enough for everything he knew to change. The first thing he did was head back to the house he had shared with Olivia. It was gone. The place where they had built a life, where he had kissed her goodnight, where he had sacrificed everything. It wasn't theirs anymore. The real estate agent who now occupied the office where Ethan had signed the mortgage papers told him the house had been sold 4 years ago. Olivia had moved on without him. His heart pounded as he checked the bank accounts. Empty. Every single cent he had left behind had been drained. She hadn't just stopped writing, she had erased him. But why? Ethan spent the next few weeks searching for her. His old friends were no help. They had either lost contact with Olivia or refused to talk. People avoided him, either afraid of his past or unwilling to get involved. Finally, he got a lead. A mutual acquaintance mentioned seeing Olivia in a wealthy neighborhood outside of town. She had a new life now. With a deep breath, Ethan took a taxi and headed there. What he saw made his blood turn cold. A beautiful 2-story house, a well-maintained lawn, and a white picket fence. The perfect picture of suburban happiness. Olivia had everything they had once dreamed of, with someone else. Ethan knocked on the door, his heart pounding. When it opened, he felt like the ground beneath him had vanished. There she was, Olivia. She looked different. More polished, more refined, like she had stepped into a life that had never included him. But what made his stomach lurch was the roundness of her stomach. She was pregnant. And then behind her, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Ryan, her ex-boyfriend. Ethan's entire body went cold, his fingers curled into fists as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Ethan. Olivia's voice was soft, uncertain. She looked guilty, but not surprised, like she had been expecting him. Ryan, however, was smirking. "What the hell is this?" Ethan's voice was hoarse, barely more than a whisper. Olivia glanced at Ryan before stepping outside, closing the door behind her. "I was going to reach out," she said quietly. Ethan laughed bitterly. "Reach out? You stole everything from me. My house, my money, my life. And now I find out you're with him?" He jabbed a finger toward the door. She flinched. "Ethan, please, let me explain." "Then explain," he hissed, his patience wearing thin. She exhaled slowly, as if bracing herself. "Ryan and I, we reconnected after you were arrested." Ethan felt like he had been punched in the gut. "You reconnected? I went to prison for you, Olivia. I gave up everything for you." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't ask you to." Silence. The words cut deeper than any knife. Ethan shook his head, disbelief morphing into fury. "You begged me, you cried in my arms and told me you couldn't survive in prison. I thought I was protecting you." She looked away, unable to meet his gaze, and that's when it clicked. She had never been in danger. She had never needed his protection. He took a slow step back, realization settling in his bones. "You set me up." Olivia's silence was deafening. Half for the bitter confirmation, Ryan stepped outside then, arms crossed. "Look, man, don't make this harder than it has to be." Ethan's jaw clenched. He wanted to rip Ryan apart, but he forced himself to breathe. "Tell me the truth," Ethan said, his voice eerily calm, "from the beginning." Olivia hesitated, but finally she broke. "Yes," she admitted. "Ryan and I planned it." Ethan's world crumbled. "I never meant for you to get so much time," she added quickly. "I thought you'd get a few years, maybe probation." "A few years?" Ethan's voice cracked. "You stole my life, Olivia." She wiped at her tears. "Richard Dawson, I hated him. He ruined my life, and I knew I couldn't get away with it alone." Ethan stared at her. The betrayal, the cold calculation, he had been nothing more than a pawn in her game. And Ryan, the man he had trusted Olivia to move on from? He had been part of it all along. Ryan smirked. "It's nothing personal, Cole, just how things played out." Ethan's fists ached to strike him. But no, prison had taught him patience. He turned to Olivia one last time. "And the baby?" She hesitated, then rested her hand on her belly. "It's Ryan's." Ethan nodded slowly. He took a deep breath, stepping back. "I see," he said. And then, for the first time in 6 years, he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a promise. Ethan left without another word. He walked through the quiet streets, his mind racing. He had spent years believing in love, loyalty, sacrifice, and in the end, all of it had been a lie. But he wasn't broken. No, he was free. And freedom meant choices. Ryan and Olivia had taken everything from him, but they had forgotten one thing about Ethan Cole. He never let things go. 6. The plan begins. Ethan didn't return to his old life. There was nothing left there. Instead, he started watching, learning, waiting. Ryan had secrets, a past filled with fraud, illegal dealings, and debts. Ethan had time now, and he would make sure those secrets destroyed him. Olivia had built a reputation, a new life. It was fragile. Ethan knew exactly how to break it, and the best part, they had no idea what was coming. Ethan had spent 6 years paying for a crime he didn't commit. Now, he would make sure that Olivia and Ryan paid for theirs. But revenge required patience. He didn't go after them immediately. That's what they expected. Instead, he watched. Ethan spent weeks tracking their routines. Olivia was still working, this time at a high-end marketing firm. She had built a new identity, a respectable woman with a perfect life. She hosted charity events, attended social gatherings, and had a growing online presence. Ryan, on the other hand, was exactly the kind of fraudulent scumbag Ethan had suspected. His name was attached to shady business deals, fake investments, and stolen money. He had the charm of a con man, always smiling, always pretending to be legitimate. Ethan gathered evidence, and when he had enough, he struck. Ethan's first target was Ryan. Using an alias, he leaked financial records to law enforcement, documents showing fraudulent transactions, tax evasion, and illegal business dealings. These weren't just accusations, they were airtight. Ethan had ensured that every number, every bank transfer, every stolen cent could be traced. Then he tipped off Ryan's business partners. The investors who had trusted Ryan's business soon realized that their money had vanished. Lawsuits followed. Investigations launched. Ryan didn't even see it coming. One morning, he walked into his office to find federal agents waiting for him. Handcuffs snapped around his wrists as he was charged with fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. Ethan made sure he was there to witness it. As Ryan was shoved into a police car, their eyes met. Ethan smirked. One down. Olivia, of course, wasn't innocent. She had manipulated Ethan, stolen his life, and helped Ryan set him up. She had rebuilt her life on lies. So Ethan started chipping away at her foundation. He exposed the truth, not to the police, but to everyone she cared about. He sent anonymous emails to her bosses, colleagues, and wealthy friends, detailing how she had framed her own husband for murder. He provided security footage, a copy of the alley camera from that night, the same footage she thought was destroyed. In it, Olivia is seen leaving the crime scene, not Ethan. The timestamp, the movements, it all contradicted the official case files. It spread like wildfire. Social media turned against her. Her job put her on leave. The charity organizations cut ties. The public humiliation was brutal. And then Ethan delivered the final blow. One evening, Olivia was scheduled to speak at a prestigious gala. The crowd was filled with powerful people, investors, and media personnel. It was the pinnacle of her new life. Ethan had planned for this moment. As she stood on stage, ready to deliver her speech, the projector screen behind her flickered to life. And then the footage played. The recording of her leaving Dawson's crime scene. Gasps filled the room. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into outright horror. Olivia stood frozen, her face pale. Then came Ethan's voice, pre-recorded, broadcasted through the speakers. "This is Olivia Cole, the woman who let her husband rot in prison for 6 years, the woman who lied, stole, and destroyed lives to protect herself." Silence, then chaos. The media flooded her with questions. Guests walked out in disgust. Her career, reputation, and social standing collapsed in an instant. That night, Ethan waited for Olivia outside the gala. When she finally emerged, she was a mess. Her once perfect dress was wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. She spotted him and stopped in her tracks. "You," she whispered. Ethan just smiled. "Me?" She took a shaky breath, stepping closer. "You did this?" "You destroyed me first," he replied. "Now we're even." Tears slid down her cheeks. I thought you loved me." Ethan's expression hardened. "I did, but I loved the woman I thought you were. Not this, not a liar, not a murderer." She reached for his arm. "Ethan, please, I'm pregnant. You don't have to do this." He pulled away. "That's Ryan's kid, and last I checked, he's in prison. So maybe you should be worrying about yourself." Olivia's breath hitched. She looked desperate, lost. She had no one left. She had become what she once feared, alone. Ethan walked away, this time for good. He had nothing left to tie him to Olivia. No hatred, no love, nothing. She would spend the rest of her life trapped in the ruins of the empire she built on deception. Ryan was gone. Olivia was ruined. And Ethan, he was finally free. For the first time in 6 years, he breathed without weight on his chest. A new city, a fresh start, a life without betrayal. As he walked into the night, he smiled to himself. Because this time, he wasn't walking away empty-handed. He had something more valuable than revenge. He had peace. There you have it, the devastating story of Ethan Cole, a man who went from hero to villain in his own life, only to come out the other side with nothing but the truth and peace. What would you have done in his shoes? Would you have made the same sacrifices? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm dying to hear what you think. If you were on the edge of your seat through this whole roller coaster of emotions, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping stories just like this one. I've got more twists and turns coming your way, so be sure to ring that bell so you never miss a moment. Lastly, as always, thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, stay tuned for more shocking tales, and remember, the truth always finds its way out. Take care, everyone.